So we're talking not just about champagne, even though that's obviously the headline today. We're talking about a number of other products that consumers are going to potentially have to pay higher prices on.
Yeah, so when we look at this marketing category, champagne and Prosecco really drive that category with consumers. And consumers have really led both of the Prosecco and champagne not to become a celebratory occasion wine, but something that they drink on a daily basis. So the consumer trends show that both champagne and Prosecco are enjoyed on a daily basis. Any type of tariff on those products will force consumers to look perhaps at more domestic options should that price increase.
What are the chances that the tariffs being paid directly by the importers are just eaten right at that level? Or are we expecting them to be passed on right up to the consumer level?
So currently, the tariffs are being essentially eaten by the suppliers, but that's not feasible for business, I'm told, into 2020. And so the consumers will be left holding the bill. And the Wine Spirits Wholesalers of America represent about 400 family-owned businesses who bring wine and spirits to market. We're vehemently opposed to any tariffs on wine and spirits from the EU.
Yeah. I was going to say, Michael, you know, what gets my attention about this is the fact that you do have American winemakers that are speaking out against these tariffs because of what it would potentially do, I think, to the distribution chain, the supply chain for them as well. Break that down for us.
Yeah, so when you look at America's wholesalers, again, about 400 family-owned companies throughout the United States, many of which who have built a business on importing European wine and spirits. For instance, there's a member out of New Orleans, Uncorked, who brings in all the French wine that supplies all the French-themed restaurants in New Orleans. Then you have, larger distributors like the one I'm at today, RNDC, where they're bringing in a lot of French wines and champagnes. And so what wine and spirits wholesalers are all about is consumer choice. Right now, wholesalers bring an unprecedented amount of choice to the American consumer. And if you interrupt that, you really interrupt what we would consider to be a wine and spirits renaissance. Consumer choice and free trade has to be championed.
But I guess my point on this is the fact that you would have actual American winemakers who'd be speaking out against this, because you'd think that those winemakers would actually benefit from this. But instead, if you see a reduction in the number of American distributors and wholesalers, that's going to hurt them as well.
So the consumer is not going to decrease their demand. What the consumer will notice, if there is an increase in price, they will look at domestic options. So when you look at California wines, when you look at Oregon, Washington, there's some really good product that will move in pretty quickly and could take share from the European wines and, quite frankly, spirits that are impacted by these tariffs, should they go into place.
Michael, among all the products potentially impacted by tariffs, it would seem that wine, it has certain markups in there. It's not very attached to the cost of production in terms of the retail pricing. Can it not be absorbed somewhere along the distribution chain, these tariffs?
Well, right now, when we look at wine in this country, it actually is lagging behind spirits. Right now, there's a real demand for American whiskey, specifically bourbon, and wine is actually decreasing according to SipSource data. And so any type of impact on a price on wine would, I think, put it at a disadvantage. And so when we look at wine that's already decreasing in sales and you increase the price of those products, they're going to continue losing market share. This especially with millennials who are looking for value in everything they consume.